views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Coming up on this edition of Perspectives, President Joe Biden is sworn in as the 46th President of the United States. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris makes history as the first woman to hold a nationally elected office, and then also the first African-American woman and first Asian American to reach such heights. Coming up on this edition, we discuss what exactly lies ahead for the Biden-Harris ticket, and will they be able to be successful? That's coming up on this edition of Perspectives with yours truly, Daren Jaime.
What's on your mind? Express what's on your mind. What's on your mind?
Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life.
Make a difference in someone's life. Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective.
What's your perspective? Let them know.
And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Perspectives. And yes, you are watching it. I'm Daren Jaime, and we thank you for joining us. We encourage you to stay connected as Perspectives airs every week here on BronxNet Television. We also encourage you to stay connected to us on our social media platforms at BronxNet TV, our personal social media, Daren C. Jaime, that is the professional page for Facebook. Also, DC Jaime 23, that's Twitter and Instagram. There you can get some information as well as some inspiration. Coming up on today's show, we go front and center with the major story of the week, the inauguration of President Joe Biden, and then also Vice President Kamala Harris. Many takeaways from what was an unusual COVID-19 pandemic-style inauguration. As unusual as it is, many historical moments were also had. Well, this inauguration may very well be a profound turning point in our nation's history, and one could argue almost as significant as the Civil War, the women's suffrage movement, or the Montgomery boycott and the 1963 March on Washington. Joining us to share their perspective on it, we are pleased to have our good friend and political analyst, Joyce Johnson. Joyce was also a Biden delegate to the Democratic National Convention of the 10th Council District in New York State. And Joyce, good to have you here and welcome back. Happy New Year. And I know it's a happy time for you.
I've been waiting to exhale for some time, and I did. Yes, I'm hopeful. I posted on Facebook yesterday, I have hope, and yes, we can. And we begin there.
Yeah. As we look at the inauguration of President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, let's just talk about it. Give me your thoughts. I mean, obviously, it wasn't the kind of inauguration that America is used to, but yet and still, as I said in the lead, a lot of special moments. And you almost got this sense that decency, respect was being restored to the highest office in the land.
You just hit the nail, on the head. And I've been in person to I think this would have been my fourth inauguration, having supported, the presidents who won or whatever. But I think the virtual piece, Joe Biden is the president for our time. And I think policies aside, we have been yearning for someone with just what you said: decency, the rule of law, respect for the Constitution, those things that we were all taught in school. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, not my side versus your side. And I think in his presidency, that will be restored if and only if we the people decide to join in on that.
Well, let's admit it. Obviously, what happened yesterday, it didn't take long for critics to really start to launch out. We saw the hashtag, not my president. We have to admit that, honestly, after looking at a presidential race where President Biden garnered 80 million of American votes. Former President Donald Trump only coming away with 70 million, but yet and still one of the largest, I should say, turnout for presidential votes. So it does signal that we do have a divided states of America.
Oh, we have a divided states of America, much like the Civil War era, you know, 100 years plus ago. And so there is no denying that we are deeply divided, but we must live in these 50 states as Americans. And it will be up to us. I'm not going to agree with everything that, let me say this. I'm suspending all ideology. I have my beliefs, but I can be the same people. I'm saying I'm going to listen to that other 49%, except those who are ideologically racist, white supremacists. I don't believe that everyone who voted for Donald Trump, who voted as a Republican, are racist. They may other interests. So all I know that there's much that we have to do. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, 50 senators, 435 Congress people can't do it all. We, the people, have a part in this piece. We have got to decide, do we want a more perfect union? Not my version of what's perfect, not somebody else's version. It is a compromise. So all of a compromise. We're going to have to come together and figure it out for even if it's just 1 inch at a time, a better way rather than standing on opposite sides saying that, well, it's either my way or the highway. Because if we don't, Daren, we will not have a United States of America. We will not have this more towards a more perfect union will not be there. And we are at a critical time, and it's not just, it's everybody.
Yeah. Well, in creating a more perfect union, let me focus a little bit more on the Democratic Party. Vice President Joe Biden did go out of his way, said that he wanted to make sure that a woman was going to be on the ticket. Not only did he get a woman, he got an African-American woman, a woman of Asian American descent, and Kamala Harris. Very much, do you feel a deciding factor in helping him to get across the finish line with these votes?
I don't. I think that, well, you know what, he picked he picked someone who was eminently qualified, who I think he liked, respected, who happens to have been, you know, African American descent, you know, South Asian descent, you know, classically an African American, because, you know, we're all very mixed up with everything and then some. And so I do believe it helped. But more than that, if it had not been, you know, Kamala Harris, I think he picked the right one. I think it is a brilliant ticket. I think when we see the turnout in the African American people of African American community, especially, it certainly helped. It's helped throughout the South. It helped certainly in Georgia. The brilliant galvanizing and organizing of people who look like me and you to, for the first time, increase by significant amounts the participation of African Americans in presidential politics, if you will. And I hope that continues at the local and state level.
But Joyce, look at this from this perspective, right? Joe Biden does not win the South Carolina primary if it's not for Jim Clyburn. You turn around, you turn around, and there is a debt of gratitude that's owed to African Americans for helping him to pull that through, which also helped him get the Democratic nod. You turn around now and say, I want to get a woman, and in looking at what he's done, he takes a Kamala Harris. But if it wasn't for a Kamala Harris, in my personal view, I don't think you get the great amount of support, particularly from African-American women who showed up at Divine Nine and the others who really rallied to the polls. And when you look at the votes and how close it is, one would easily have to say that having an African-American on the ticket makes a difference. Having an African-American woman and now being the first vice president certainly scores it up. I got to throw to a break
Yes
right
to
quick.
all.
I'm gonna give you a second to
Yes
think
to
about it.
all.
After the break, I'm gonna let you check your give me your response. And
Okay.
so I gave you time to think. We'll be right back.
Yeah,
Right after
thanks.
this.
Yes to all.
Back here on Perspectives, our guest Joyce Johnson, and I threw a lot at her before the break. So Joyce, I'm gonna let you go ahead. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. I'm saying you had to do something by way of African Americans. They definitely came through in helping Biden to the presidency. Go ahead.
Couldn't agree with you more. If you wanted to boost turnout, and fire up folks, you did that in nominating or choosing Kamala Harris. It fired up. You spoke about the Divine Nine, of which I am a member, Delta Sigma Theta. You talk about the HBCU connections. I am Howard University. I can tell you, I poured money every single week on behalf of Howard University, Delta Sigma Theta, because of that. But more, in addition to that, much of Joe Biden became the nominee because of African Americans. First, Clyburn in South Carolina, and even still after that, folks weren't quite sure. And then, there was a long discussion who's he's going to pick. I think he made the right choice at the right time with someone who's eminently qualified. And so, our job was to make sure that this ticket, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, won. And I think we did that in that we were the decisive vote in many states, north, south, east, west, and all of that. That goes to the brilliance of our knowledge and understanding that your vote matters. And if there's ever a time to demonstrate it, it was this time. Though that we were in urban areas, in urban, north, northwest, north, in southern states, we were the determining factor. And I'm just thrilled that we, for the first time in a long time, we understand the power of that vote. And that goes to the brilliant organizing all around the country to get the Black vote out, even in the face of monumental voter suppression. But the coalitions to protect the vote were massive. Folks understood the consequences of another, forget can I live with another 4 years of Donald Trump as presidency? I don't think so. The stakes were so high. So I agree with you. We did it.
Well, yesterday was the inauguration, the celebration. Today, the work begins. And even yesterday, the work continued because you had 17 executive orders that took place. You've heard him in his inaugural statement talk about becoming more centered on unity and becoming not partisan, but bipartisan.
Mhm.
However, we know those 17 executive orders definitely ruffle bipartisanship. And we also know that the Democrats control both the House and the Senate. Now, with the House and the Senate, because Kamala Harris having that deciding vote in the Senate, the question is, the Democrats, do you do like the Republicans and run the table the way that they did? Or do you put some pause and try to go for some bipartisanship? And I think that's the biggest decision that Joe Biden has to make, because it is very easy to run the table. But you could also run into some drama in 2 years,
Right.
as President Obama and his first 4 years in office?
It is that delicate balance of good politics and what I'll call pragmatic politics, is what you're saying, and the choices that you make. We the people, I'm looking for results. I have never been, and I won't tell you how many elections I've always voted. It has never been, I've never been 100% happy with anyone. And that's okay, because it is not to make me happy, but for the greater good. So to your point, run the tables if you must, but seek bipartisanship, if you will. And you know what? We're so divided now, but there was a time, I've been around long enough and have practiced politics as a little girl. You've heard this story. My parents, they had me glued to, conventions, Democratic conventions, when I was 9 years old. It is and I have watched, the Senate and and so I'm one of these kids that grew up as a junkie. So I have seen every side of it. And there was a time, if there was a time that we were divided during the civil rights era. We came together, common goals, got some things done, and then so the pendulum sort of swings back one side to the other. And I think the common goodness is to, as it swings left, we must come to the middle. And if it swings right, we must come back to the middle. Because I would suggest there is the area of common ground. I can't get everything I want. I can get some of what I want. And if we would suspend this is just personally, this isn't on our workforce or in our families. Let me get something to the good and you the same. But the only restriction I would put on that, in the face of what was sedition, with a move to overturn the election and the votes of people just like you and me, who says I have a right to participate with my vote as much as you do and have my vote counted. That's the one area where the democracy starts to fail, and we the people will not stand for that. So
Talking
bipartisan
about not
is
saying,
also,
um,
what I would say to everyone, we've got to start thinking individually of the people we are sending to the Congress, to the state houses, to councils, to our Senate. Now, and I'm seeing these ideologues on all sides. You can be an ideologue, but when your responsibility as one of 435 of one of 100, you get off your ideologue, whatever. You're supposed to produce for 315 million Americans, and you can no longer hold to that. Well, my constituents, when you get in that Congress, your constituents are we, the people of the United States of America, and you do the best for the greater good of all, period. And we've got to start holding people to that.
I want to come back and talk about holding people accountable. I want to talk about Joe Biden and his accountability for his staff. Talk about that when we return right here on Perspectives. Take a quick break. Joyce Johnson will return with us in a minute.
New Yorkers have mastered existing in crowded places and walking fast. Now is the time to master social distancing. Social distancing means creating more personal space between yourself and others, at least 6 feet. Creating more physical distance protects yourself and other New Yorkers from the spread of coronavirus. To do your part, stay home. Stay connected through calls, texts, and video chats. If you have to go out for essentials like food and medicine, avoid crowds and put space between yourself and other people standing in line. If you go outside, just remember to keep 6 feet of space between yourself and others. This is not just about you. It's also about protecting the most vulnerable and preserving the health of essential workers who are on the front lines. If you're feeling overwhelmed, connect with counselors at NYC Well. Text COVID to 692-692 for real-time updates, or visit nyc.gov/coronavirus.
And we're back here on Perspectives. Daren Jaime here with you. We are talking with Joyce Johnson, talking about the inauguration that took place just yesterday. President Joe Biden sworn in as the 46th president of the United States. Also, Kamala Harris, who is now the vice president, the first of African American and Asian American descent. and also the first woman to ever hold the office of vice president. Joyce, I want to bring you in on this one here. We talked in the last segment about responsibility, accountability, particularly by elected officers. We saw something pretty unique. We saw something yesterday where the president actually swore in all of his appointees. And as he swore in all of his appointees, what he said was he demanded integrity and respect. He talked about responsibility and accountability. But then he also said, if you don't do this, I'm going to fire you right on the spot. What are we to make of Joe Biden and the work that he does by the office that he carries?
You and I have been hired in many organizations. If you don't do the work, if you can't follow the rules, if you are not a productive participant in the what I call the mission, and you do otherwise, you get fired. And so I thought that was profound, and it was right. I'm a business person. I have been a leader, nonprofit leader, corporate leader. Have my own business. That's the rules of the road. It is not patriotism. It's not not patriotic. My buddies are here and they can do what they want. No, and he spoke about service and duty, and we are paying them to do right by 315 million people, each and every one. He is accountable to if you hire someone who should not be there for whatever reason, you made a mistake in hiring, yes, must go. That's how I am. That's how I am, because there are other people out there who should buy into the good mission towards a more perfect union and your agenda on behalf of the folks. If you're not doing that, you have to go.
Well, we saw that the Surgeon General has now entered his resignation, being asked to resign by the Biden administration. And then also two other Trump holdouts that actually said, listen, no, I'm not going to resign, but consequently were fired by the president in his first day in office. What are we to make of the diversity of appointments? Because we saw in his cabinet, we've seen with his appointees, probably one of the most diverse cabinets we've ever seen in United States history. What are we to make of this?
We are to make of something that, as a former director of equal employment opportunity for a Fortune 500 company, that says that you can find in every racial, ethnic, gender, demographics, qualified people that looks like collectively the 315 million people who live in this country, who are, and the operative word is qualified. Qualified. My dad was an electrical engineer graduate in Fayetteville, North Carolina. This goes back to the late 40s, and could only get a job working in a pool room to support his family, came north. Now we have a society that we want to hire we want to hire and must hire the best and brightest. And we can do that with every level of demographic there is. Choose the best folks. And I think his cabinet, tremendous picks, who also happen to be very, multicultural, multi-racial, multi-ethnic, multi-everything. And that's the best of America.
Right. With all that you saw yesterday, what was the biggest surprise for you?
Garth Brooks.
Okay.
No.
What?
No. What was the biggest?
There's something about Garth Brooks and him singing "Amazing Grace," or what?
Oh, I love his. Well, he took his hat off. Number one, I've never seen him without his hat, and I've come to know, what the whoever organized it, the person, the programming piece. It was probably, like I told you, the Democratic National Convention, which I did virtually as a delegate, was the best Democratic National Convention I've ever participated. This is the best I've been to, I don't know how many inaugurals now, 5. This was the best in its production. And it touched every post, the people who have died from the pandemic, the flags that remind us to, what our duty is first and foremost. It was the most patriotic presentation. There's some, folks that go, oh, it wasn't this and that. It was everything. And more than that, the constant theme of unity, the constant theme of decency, common good, respect, going to Arlington National cemeteries, those things that geeky we grew up with, these are the peaceful transfer of power. And no, there was no, rioting, there was no drama, and all of that at a time when
I think we lost Joyce for a second. I think she's
the
freezing.
American people
Okay.
needed just that.
I
He'll
think
never
we
be
lost
my
you for a
president.
second.
But oh, you did it. Jeez whiz, what happened?
I think we lost you for a second, but we got you back. But I think that you made your point of what it looked like. I mean, for me personally, I looked at yesterday from the Bronx's perspective, and I say there was great representation. Here you had, Vice President Kamala Harris, who's actually being sworn in by Supreme Court Justice
Sonia Sotomayor, I love her.
Sotomayor,
Right,
who comes right here from our borough,
right.
who I've had the privilege of interviewing, and she's had the privilege of being on my show before. Then you got J-Lo. And guess what?
Jenny
J-Lo.
from the Bronx.
And I mean, she rendered a wonderful performance. But yeah, I think people were like Garth Brooks' Amazing Grace. But, we're used to singing it a different way in the African American tradition.
No. But I was glad because he is that country music, and the notion of the country music star. Gaga,
Yeah.
Lady Gaga. I mean, and it just, Jenny from the Bronx, Sotomayor, Kamala, you put the whole picture together. This is simply America at its best. I remember watching Jesus back in the 60s, because I told you it's been a long time. My dad they had me watching everything.
Right.
You would be surprised to see three blacks, certainly no Hispanics and all of that. We have come a long way. And while we're in this turbulent time, it shows you from where we were to where we are today and where we then can be.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was.
And listen, we can't forget, we talked about all this stuff, but we can't forget, and I got to go on this one. Amanda Gorman, 22 years old, poet laureate. Yes,
Oh
you can't
my
forget
God.
about her. But I mean, because we were from the Bronx, we had to talk all the other stuff too. But you can't forget about her. And I got to leave it there because we're out of time. But Joyce, want to thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to talk about Amanda on another show. How about that?
My young hero.
That's it. She's a young Shiro and someone who's really changed the landscape
Oh
for
my God. Yeah.
African American women, young African American
Oh
women.
my God.
And I must agree with Van Jones yesterday. She is not the exception. All we need is a shot, and we can show you a whole lot more Amanda Gormans who are out there doing their thing. Joyce, thank you so much.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
All righty. Well, we got to wrap it up here for this edition of Perspectives. Daren Jaime saying thank you for watching. Be sure to tune into Perspectives. We'll continue to bring you more information coming out of Washington, D.C. And then also, we forgot to mention, which we should, Bronx Congressman Jamal Bowen has just now also been sworn into office as well. He's taking office as well, representing the Bronx as well as Westchester County, Mount Vernon. Congratulations also goes out to him. Listen, next time we next time we meet, stay safe, share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in somebody else's life. Take care and God bless.